Her attitude towards her last pimp was no news to me. It was common knowledge up on the track that her pimp had been scared of her. She had a reputation for being quick and good with a knife, and had been known to cut a few people of both sexes. "But you ain't got to worry about nothing, Billy, honey. I like you. And I know with all that money you got, we ain't gonna have no problem at all getting along." I waited until she had finished speaking before coming off the bed in one smooth motion. The way a man started off pimping a whore was generally the way he ended up. If you didn't make a whore realize that you were the man, she'd end up in the driver's seat, while you'd be more of a bitch in her eyes than a man. My fist landed upside her head in one solid thump. She fell up against the dresser, then slid to the floor, cursing, "You son of a bitch, don't know best to hit me like that." She came up off the floor, eyes blazing. When she made a move, it wasn't fast. It was unchained lightning. Her hand dipped down inside her bra in a blur of motion. Before I could move, she had popped the button and a long blade shot out the end of her knife. For a woman her size, she moved with blinding speed. She came in towards me, not in a stabbing stance, but with the knife held low, so she could gut me with one vicious swing. Without hesitating, she stepped in and swung the blade upward. It was the moment I'd been waiting for. I turned sideways and chopped down with the side of my hand, catching her wrist with a solid blow. The knife fell to the floor, and before she could stoop to reach it, I slammed a brutal combination of blows to her head. I have to give credit where it's due. She didn't go down. She hit the wall and came right back at me with her nails. She was swinging her arms like a windmill. I went under her wild swings and stuck a left and right to her stomach as hard as I could. She folded up like a big bag. Grabbing her hair, I pulled her to me. With slow deliberation, I ripped her dress off. When she was down to her panties and bra, I grabbed the front of the bra and snatched it so hard that it popped loose in the back. Tossing her on the bed, I began to pull her panties down around her legs. When she raised up, I backhanded her in the mouth. When I got her pants off one leg, she opened her legs wide and stared up at me. Her eyes were full of scorn as she coldly revealed herself to me. But I had one hell of a surprise for her. Cunt was the last thing in my mind. I moved to the head of the bed and reached under the pillow. When my hand came out, it was holding my pimp sticks, 2 coat hangers twisted together. She lay as though paralyzed, her eyes getting big with fear. "Bitch," I stated coldly, "there's a few things you got to know, and you got to learn. The first one is that my name ain't Billy. It's Whoreson, if that means anything to you. The second thing you should know, bitch, is that you can't teach me nothing about pimping, ho. I was born to pimp. Now we'll start with the things you got to learn, and first on the program is respect. A good whore always has respect for her man, and you definitely are going to be a good whore." Before the words were out of my mouth, I had lit into her with the coat hangers. Her screams fell on deaf ears as I continued to beat her. She fell off the bed and tried to squirm under it. I grabbed her leg and pulled her out to the middle of the floor and continued to beat her. When I got tired, I took her in the bathroom and made her take a bath, then snatched her out of the tub and beat her again. I beat her until her voice became hoarse, then tossed her on the bed and stuck my Jones in her big, wide butt. Later that same evening, I took her down on the track. When I saw her standing in the doorway, talking to 2 other girls, I walked over and knocked her down. She stared up at me from the ground. There was stark fear in her eyes, and when I saw that, I knew half my battle was won. Now all I had to do was stop her from stabbing me while I slept. This problem I went to work on at once. I ran down the pill man and bought out his supply of beans. I made her stand on the corner and work for 3 days and 3 nights without a drop of sleep. I kept her full of beans and black coffee. The morning I pulled her up and took her home to sleep, she was out on her feet. She walked into the side of the motel, mistaking it for the door. I kept Ruby going at this pace for 1 month. In that time, She came down from a size 16 dress to a size 12. When I saw her with her clothes off now, there was nothing repulsive about the sight. She'd always been tall. Now she was graceful, too. Her skin was smooth, and her face had always been cute. Now, with the loss of her double chin, she'd turned into an attractive young woman. I still took her up on the school ground some mornings and made her run it till she became exhausted. Whether or not she disliked the treatment I put her through, she was proud of the end results. I constantly caught her looking in the mirror, smiling at herself. We sat in the motel, sipping wine. You know, Whoreson, if you didn't get mad so quick and beat me so hard, I really like you. She rushed on before I could speak. I mean, I like you now, honey, but if you just wouldn't fight me so much, I'd be so happy. I ain't never had no man like you before, and it just takes a little time for me to get used to your ways. I stared at her, coldly. Bitch, if I treated you any different, you would end up trying to put shit on me. This way, ho, you know if I catch you putting your little funky game on me, you know beyond a shadow of a doubt I'll break both your legs. She tried to fight back the sleep that was tugging at her. Her head dropped down on her chest, but she jerked it up. You know, Whoreson, she said in a drowsy voice, if you was a little more kinder, a whole lot of the girls on the corner would choose you. She added, they see how hard you work me, and it scares them, 'cause don't nobody's pimp work them the way you work me. Ruby, stand up and take off all your clothes. She jumped at my command, as though I'd kicked her. Her eyes got large, and she stood up hesitantly. Her voice shook with fear. Whoreson, I didn't mean any harm, she said, pulling off her clothes. Her hands trembled as she pushed her panties down and stepped out of them. I beckoned to her. Come on over here. I ran my hands over her smooth body. There were still a few flabby spots, but on the whole she was becoming one beautiful brown-skinned girl. Quit all that shaking, Ruby, I said softly, as my hands traveled up and down her body. She was trembling like a frightened doe. Under my smooth caresses, she slowly quieted down. I pulled her onto my lap. Gently, I ran my fingers in and out between her legs. She emitted a low moan and lay back against me. I picked her up in my arms and carried her over to the mirror and stood her up. What you see in the mirror, bitch, I stated coldly, is my creation. Not something you did for yourself, but what I had to force you to do for yourself. I continued, so from now on, when some bitch comes up to you and begins crying on your shoulder about how hard I work you, you laugh in her face, bitch, 'cause I ain't did nothing that didn't need doing. I wasn't complaining, Whoreson. My sarcastic laughter rang out in the small confines of the room. I know you wasn't, Ruby. You was just building up to trying to think, trying to get around what I told you. You don't think, woman. I do your thinking for you, 'cause whenever you try, something's bound to end up getting fucked up. Now ain't that right? She grinned at me shyly, then nodded her head in agreement. Whatever you say, Daddy. You know I'll do whatever you want me to. With a smooth motion, I stood up and picked her up in my arms. Her nude body went tense in my embrace as I carried her over to the bed and laid her down. With slow deliberation, I ran my tongue up and down her golden brown body. I could feel her muscles tighten unconsciously as I began gently to make love to her. The more elaborate pains I took, the more excited she became. Soon Ruby was moaning as she began to feel thrills I had never before taken the time to arouse in her.